Namaste. I would like to talk about the stampede which has taken place at the New Delhi station among people who were about to board a train for Prayagraj to go and take a dip in Ganga. This is not very unusual, especially during festival times. You know, it has happened with me once. I travel usually in sleeper class, and it was the day before Holi, and I had to travel from New Delhi, the same railway station, to Lucknow. I had a reserved berth in the sleeper class, but there was no way I could enter the coach. There were so many people, and I had to enter through the emergency window. You know, they are provided in the middle of the coach and on both sides. So I entered through that emergency window, and somebody handed over my luggage, and then I could get onto the middle berth, on which I had a reservation. And in the middle of the night, when I wanted to go to the toilet to use the urinal, there was no way I could have walked in the coach, because people were sitting and sleeping on the ground floor. And so I put my legs on the middle and the upper berths and was trying to go towards the toilet, and I had not even reached the toilet, and somebody informed me that if you're going to the toilet, then forget it, because there are people sitting inside the toilets. So what has happened is not unusual, but the big question is, why is Indian Railways unable to handle such crowds? And I would like to question the policy of the Indian Railways. I don't know why they are doing it, but the number of air-conditioned coaches is increasing. The number of sleeper class coaches and general class coaches are being reduced. So it is quite natural that the people who travel in sleeper and general class coaches will be all crowded in these two classes, because in the AC you cannot enter without a reservation. Although sometimes during this kumbh itself, there have been cases where people, when they could not get into the sleeper and the general class coaches, they have entered the AC coaches also. But usually they don't go to AC coaches. They would usually go for the people who buy general ticket. If they cannot enter the general class coaches, they would enter the sleeper class coaches. So the policy of the railways, number one, to reduce sleeper and general class coaches and increase the air conditioned coaches. I don't know why they are doing it. Vande Bharat train is all AC. There are several other trains which are all AC, in which normal people cannot travel. So the space for them in Indian Railways is being reduced, and it is resulting in overcrowding of these coaches. And the second reason is, I have not understood why they sell unlimited tickets in general class. The day the incident has happened, apparently 1,500 general class tickets were sold. Now, when you reserve berths in the AC or the sleeper class coaches, you theoretically allow only as many passengers as there are berths. Although in sleeper class coaches, usually sometimes you have 2 to 3 times people traveling, even during the normal time in these coaches. But people somehow make adjustment, the ones who have the reservation and the ones who do not have, and they travel together happily most of the time. There are some altercations sometimes, but usually the nature of the people in India, especially the lower middle class and the poor, is adjusting, and they adjust to each other's needs. I recently had to travel from Bhubaneswar to Delhi. There were 2 nights, and I didn't have a reservation. I was traveling on a waitlisted ticket, and on both nights I was able to get berths. First night because there was a berth vacant, and second night there was a family who had many berths, and when they saw me, I am nearing the senior citizen status, they offered me a berth, and I was able to travel. So such kind of things are possible. But when you sell the general class tickets quite in excess, many times the number of seats which are available in the general class, then this is what is going to happen. So I think the Indian Railways needs to consider its policy. I belong to the Socialist Party. Socialists believe in equality. We have always argued for only one class of coaches. Why should we have AC and different types of AC? Now I think there are 3 or 4 different types of AC coaches, and you have the sleeper class and you have the general class. If it is a democracy, and if you look at it, the cost of the ticket is not very much. I mean, if you travel from Lucknow to Delhi, the general class ticket is about 200 rupees and the sleeper class ticket is about 325 rupees. So not so much of a difference, but still there is a difference in the quality of travel. If you're traveling in the general class and sleeper class and the AC classes, AC are more expensive, but not a whole lot expensive. A lot of people who would normally travel in sleeper classes, if they don't get a berth, they would try to get a berth in the 3rd AC at least, if not 2nd or the higher classes. So we are arguing for one class of coaches. It could be all AC or it could be all non-AC, but it should be cheap, so that a normal citizen in India, lower middle class, poor, can travel. But we also are concerned about the climate change. We are concerned about the global warming, and therefore we do not support the idea of AC coaches or even air conditioner in buildings. A large proportion of electricity goes towards running the ACs, and the ACs are responsible for carbon emission and global warming, and therefore we are not in favor of air conditioned coaches, and therefore the only kind of railway coaches which can sustain in the long term and which are feasible in a poor country like India. 80% people are getting free ration, and the National Food Security Act says that at least 75% people should be covered in rural areas and 50% in urban areas. So when we have such a large poor population that they have to be given free ration, the only feasible alternative in India, if we have to let the common people travel, is ordinary non-AC coaches. There could be sleeper and sitting, depending on the amount of time that it takes to travel. Or sometimes, people don't travel the entire distance, they are traveling for a short distance. So people who are traveling for less than 12 hours, and especially during the day, they could be sold the tickets for the sitting coaches, and people who are traveling for more than 24 hours, and even if it is 12 hours in the night, they could be given tickets for the sleeper coaches. So there is a radical shift required in the policy. One class of coaches, and not more. The tickets which are to be sold should not be more than 10% of the seats, so that if there are any last minute cancellations, people can get their berths. But we have to reconsider it if we have to avoid the kind of accident which took place in Prayagraj. It is high time. This kind of thing, we want to be a developed country, but in none of the developed countries you will see that the tickets sold are more than the number of seats. So this is a practice that we have to give up. Now the question is, what will happen if somebody has to travel in emergency? So railway has a system of quotas. So they allot berths out of quota when there is a request made in an emergency situation. So that system is already there. So if somebody has to travel for medical reasons, for examinations, and there's an emergency, then berths could be allotted out of the quota. And the other thing that the railways has to do now, with artificial intelligence and all kind of softwares available, there should be a dynamic um, allocation of trains. So if you have more passengers traveling, the number of trains should be increased at a short notice. Like for example, what happened in Delhi, if the passengers knew that they would get a space in some train or the other to go to Prayagraj, there would not have been a stampede. The reason for a stampede is because the supply is much less than the demand. So if we ensure that the supply does not, it's not in a very small number compared to the demand, or the demand is met by the supply more or less, there could be some excess demand, then the insecurity that the passengers suffer from, that they will not be able to get a space in the train, they will get rid of it, and they will be mentally kind of secure that they will get a space in the train, and therefore they will not rush, and a situation like a stampede will not happen. So this is a third suggestion, a very important one, that there should be dynamic allocation of trains depending on the number of passengers traveling. If in some season you have less number of passengers traveling, then the trains should be cut down. I mean, there could be few trains which can carry all the passengers who are willing to travel, and in the seasons or occasions when you have rush, the number of trains should be increased. And the last thing that I have to say, it is quite funny that this government is bent upon running many Vande Bharat trains, but I have also heard, I have traveled just once in South India, that there are seats going vacant. So why are we investing money in trains in which people are not willing to buy tickets? And on the other hand, you have a situation where there is overcrowding in general class and sleeper class. So the priority of the country should be clear in the minds of the policymakers. It should not be left to the whims and fancies of some political leaders, who want to do things for populism, and the policy should be made rationally. Thank you. Namaskar.